Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for October 3rd, 2023. If you would all please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Kim, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Ralph.
Here.
Council President Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda this evening?
There are, Madam Mayor. We have one item to add on other business as 9A, and it will be entitled Resolution Relating to the Utilization of Opioid Funds Adopt.
All right. So a motion would be in order to adopt the agenda as amended.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That will move us right into public communications. We've got quite a few things under public recognition this evening. We're going to start out with our October 23 Employee of the Month. I know this employee is watching the meeting tonight, so everybody wave, and he'll know who he is. I'll make the announcement and read this information. So every month at the City of Kent, our employees get together. They have the opportunity to nominate one of their coworkers to be Employee of the Month. And it can be for anything from a special project to what is most often just the way that they present every day in their job, and that they represent the mission, vision, values, and goals of the city. So this month in October, I am pleased to announce that Quentin Palmer is our October Employee of the Month. Quentin was hired by the city on December 12, 2000 as a temporary employee working at the IT help desk. He was hired full-time on April 16, 2001 as a help desk technician. And on August 1st, 2005, there was a reorg within IT, and his position was changed to a technical support specialist 2. On July 1st, 2018, he was reclassed to a service desk lead, and his position was reclassed again in 2019 as desk side support tier 2. On April 1st, 2021, he was promoted into his current position as the Systems Operations Engineer. I love the stories where we watch people's careers blossom and grow as they work here at the City of Kent. In his current position, Quentin implements, documents, and maintains various computer programs and network-based systems, assists customers, IT staff, and city officials, coordinates work in conjunction with the city departments, officials, IT staff, vendors, and consultants. Quentin was nominated because he is one of the backbone employees of the IT department. He is frequently called upon to ensure the priorities of the department are moving forward, and he always takes care of the customers he's assisting, for example, adjusting his work schedule to ensure that the work that needs to be done is not done during mission-critical times for his customer. Quentin is an example to all that work with him. He is always upbeat and ready to take on the day. He is incredibly dedicated and can always be relied upon to do the right thing. He genuinely wants to help his coworkers to make sure everyone is successful. Quentin's achievements during his tenure at the City of Kent are too numerous to mention. He continuously embraces our values, and we celebrate Quentin as our October Employee of the Month. Give him a round of applause. We've all been in that place where we call IT support and you want a friendly, kind, understanding person on the other side to not point out that maybe if you just restarted your machine, it would work better, right? But Quentin handles much more technical things than that, but is always that friendly voice willing to take on what is asked of him. And so we are very, very grateful that he is our October Employee of the Month. All right, we now are going to move into the proclamation portion of the agenda. We have 3 proclamations this evening. The first one that we have to present is for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And Jen Gladish from the board president at Dawn, our neighbor right here, is here to present or to accept the proclamation. So if you want to come on up, I'm going to read the proclamation and then we will do some photos and ask you to say a few words. Just right there is perfect. All right, so the proclamation says, whereas National Domestic Violence Awareness Month was established in October 1987 to acknowledge and provide a voice for domestic violence victims and survivors, to advocate for legislation and protections for victims, and to educate leaders and encourage public awareness and action against abuse. And whereas domestic violence is prevalent in every community, and on average nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. Let that sink in. That is a lot. Whereas domestic violence is a pattern of physical, emotional, verbal, and or sexual abuse that affects millions, regardless of race, gender, religion, occupation, education level, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation. And whereas the City of Kent remains committed to a professional response to incidents of domestic violence and strives to change belief systems and practices that support violence and abuse that disproportionately affects women and other marginalized people. And whereas becoming a place where all people embrace the spirit of nonviolence and where people develop healthy relationships based on mutual respect requires the participation and commitment of the entire community. Now, therefore, I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim October 2023 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Kent, Washington, and encourage all residents to speak out against domestic violence, support the efforts of victim advocates and service organizations, honor their courage and resilience, protect survivors, and commit ourselves to standing with them for safety, dignity, and justice.
Thank you.
Go ahead. You want us to go all the way back out to the middle?
You were just getting comfortable.
Thank you. Domestic violence is an issue that penetrates all backgrounds, regardless of socioeconomic status, faith, gender, orientation, any of those things. And the first line of defense that we can have as a community is bringing visibility and education to those around us. There are very few people that have not at least heard of somebody that they know having experience with domestic violence, and this proclamation really guides us in the first step of visibility community-wide, and for that, Mayor Rolfe and Council, we thank you. And the staff at Dawn and like-minded organizations really benefit from things like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are so grateful for the work that Dawn does, employees, volunteers alike. The impact that Dawn has on our community is I don't know that we can monetize that, right? It's the amount of protection and resiliency that it affords victims of domestic violence and changes them into survivors. We're grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to also recognize Councilmember Kaur. She serves on the Domestic Violence
Regional Task Force.
Task Force. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. So making sure that this work is being done at a regional level. So thank you, Councilmember Kaur. It's been a long time that you've served on that committee. So grateful for that. All right, our next proclamation, very excited. We've got Debbie Myers from SCAC, and it looks like a whole crew with us tonight. So really excited about that. This proclamation is for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So if you want to come on up, I'm going to read the proclamation, then we'll do a picture right there in the middle and ask you to say a few words. So the proclamation says, whereas October 2023 marks the 78th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And whereas the purpose of National Disability Employment Awareness Month is to educate about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contribution of American workers with disabilities. And whereas NDEAM traces back to 1945, when it all started as a week before later expanding to a full month, evolving to acknowledge the importance of increasing the workforce inclusion of people with all disabilities. And whereas the welcoming of all talents and people into the workplace, including people with differing abilities, is a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community and strong economy. Whereas the City of Kent has a longstanding practice of inclusive employment and proud partnership with SCAC Industries and Employment Services, who work to develop opportunities for people with disabilities to fully participate in all aspects of community life. Now therefore, I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim October 2023 to be National Disability Employment Awareness Month in Kent, Washington, and encourage residents to take proactive measures when it comes to supporting people with disabilities in employment. Thank you so much. We'll do a quick picture and then I'll have you say a few words. Picture first. Hello, friend. It's good to see you.
Hi, Deb. Come on, Bill. You're funny.
Andrea, do you want to hold this? So I do have a few words, but I sort of want to flip this to the City of Kent as well. It's an honor to accept the proclamation and acknowledge the City of Kent's commitment to disability employment and inclusive practices for people with disabilities in your workforce. The City of Kent has a commitment to supported employment and disability hiring and is recognized in the region and the state of Washington. The commitment shines bright for your supported employees. AJ, working for permits since 2018 and now office mailroom aide for finance. Andrea, office assistant for public works since 2017. Tay Sanders, office support for the police department since 2022. Angeline Tran, working for finance since February, and Kyle is dishwashing for the senior center since May of this year. These jobs provide status, purpose, and income for your employees who fulfill valued duties for the city. I just have a few comments that we received from people that couldn't come tonight, but I wanted to just quickly go through this. I won't, it seems longer than it is. From Tay Saunders, who works for the police department. Since I joined the City of Kent Police Department, they have been really caring and supportive of me and all the way. My coworkers treat me like part of the team and take time to understand my needs and what I'm good at. This has helped me a lot in my personal and work life. My disability isn't easy to see, and I know some people find it hard to understand that disabilities can be different and not always visible. But the City of Kent has been great at understanding and including people like me. They have created a safe and healthy environment where I can use my abilities and not let my disability stop me from growing in my job. I love my job. It makes me feel like any other adult or young person who can work and earn money. It has changed my life in a good way, and I feel more confident now. My mom noticed the positive change in me, and she's happy for what the City of Kent has done for me and our family.
Very good.
From Elevator Keys, my son AJ has worked for the City of Kent as a supported employee since January 2018. First date stamping for permits and now mail delivery after volunteering for several years. As AJ's mother, I am thankful that my 35-year-old son, who has intellectual and developmental disabilities, is employed by the City of Kent because he is happy, safe, and provides a service to his community. From John Pashek, who's a case manager with the State of Washington Developmental Disabilities Administration, the City of Kent has shown remarkable commitment to making supported employment work for my client. The City of Kent is a valuable community partner to the supported employment field. So supported employment is just one of the many ways that the City of Kent is an inclusive employer advancing access and equity for people with disabilities. For National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month, on behalf of SCAC's Board of Directors, staff, and participants, I would like to recognize Mayor Ralph, the Council, and City employees for your commitment to advancing access and equity in your workforce by presenting this SCAC 2023 Employer Award.
Oh.
Pretty good.
Thank you. So first of all, Debbie, everyone at SCAC, all of our supported employees here and everyone in the workforce, this means so much. It's been a long haul. Years ago, Councilmember Higgins and I started talking about how do we put in the budget make a very deliberate decision to make sure that our workforce is inclusive. And through working with SCAC and Debbie, your patience and explanation and understanding, I feel like we are at a point where we can say that we are a truly inclusive employer. We know that we want to continue to grow the program and support everyone in our community, but so very grateful for all of our amazing employees and for the commitment that SCAC has made to our community to make sure that everybody understands why this is so important. So thank you so much. Oh, yeah, you guys, it's... Thank you. All right, so I made it through that without tears, okay? This next proclamation, I don't know, now that I'm already halfway there, that will be so. But I'm going to start out a little bit of a personal point, and then we're going to ask for some more personal stories. So many of you are aware, in 2016, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Happened to be the same day that I announced I was running for mayor, all at the same time. But the only reason I knew that I had breast cancer is because my mom loves me so much that she forced me to get a mammogram. And when I say force, I mean force. She threatened me with going to the doctor with me. I was in my 40s, and who wants their mom to take them to the doctor? So I went, and on my very first mammogram, they found that I had cancer, and I went through chemo and radiation and surgery and all of the... My mom loved me that much. So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we all know or have had cancer touch our lives. I don't think there's anybody in the room that can say, you know what, I don't know what that's like to have a friend or a family member or a personal experience. This past year, Councilmember Larmer, I said this to her on the video, I said she joined a club, one that I don't wish upon anybody, but one that is full of very, very strong women and men that are survivors of breast cancer. So in honor of successly completing treatment and joining this club,
That I never wanted to join.
that you never wanted to join, and I never want anyone that I know to join it, but
The most courageous club you never want to join.
and I would say, I know that you know, right, that this is a group of people, the love and support is mighty and fierce. So I am going to read this proclamation and present it to Councilmember Larmer this year in honor of her battle and her victory. Proclamation says, whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an annual campaign to raise awareness of this disease that affects both women and men and to support research and a cure, and whereas according to the American Cancer Society, when breast cancer is detected early and it is localized in stage, the 5-year relative survival rate is 99%. And whereas an estimated 2,800 men and 298,000 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer by the end of 2023. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite the community and spread important messages of early detection, screening and prevention, and assistance to women and men during and after treatment to increase survivorship and quality of life. Now, therefore, I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim October 2023 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Kent, Washington, and encourage residents to take proactive measures when it comes to cancer screening and support the spread of life-saving cancer knowledge and resources.
So I'm going to keep this very short because I don't think I will get through it without getting emotional. I just finished treatment last month. I will say that this proclamation and this month of awareness is important to me also for another reason. When you're first diagnosed, you don't have all the answers. You tend to feel very alone. A lot of uncertainty and fear. I luckily had the mayor and another woman that I could turn to for immediate support. But it's a very lonely, scary time. And I think one thing that's important is that we talk about it and we normalize it. Because what I found is as I started opening up about my experience, within a matter of weeks, there was 12 women in my immediate professional and personal circle that I did not know that had survived. And so my wish is that we use this month of awareness to talk about it so that until we eliminate cancer, those that are diagnosed don't have that early fear and uncertainty, that we normalize the conversation because it is very survivable and there's a lot of women that have gone through it. So thank you for this award and thank you for your support throughout this whole journey. So.
All right. Be like my mom. Love somebody so much, you tell them to go get their mammogram. All right. There's a lot of big stuff. We're going to move on to some celebration. We're going to change the agenda up just a little bit. We're going to have community events. Then I'm going to invite Bill Ellis, our Chief Economic and Development Officer, up to celebrate some amazing teachers with us, and then we'll move into the Economic and Community Development Report. So, Council President, do you have any community events?
What a segue.
Hi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we do. We got a couple of events coming up at the Accessor Showwear Center. So starting with October 8th, we have Gosh Smack. October 13th, the Thunderbird will be home playing it with Natchez Wow. October 14th, I have a hard time saying this word, but it's a tour, a Rudo Pedal Tour, something like that. October 14th, I'm sure it's good. October 17th, the Thunderbird playing the Brandon Wheat King. On the 25th to the 29th, Disney on Ice, Frozen. You guys want me to sing it? I won't sing it. Okay, never mind. Okay. November 3rd, the Thunderbirds playing Spokane Chief. November 4th, the Skillet and the Theory of the Dead Man. November 25th, Peppo Aguilar. The December 8th, Tacoma Stars home opener. January 26th, we had a Harlem Gold Trotter. And last but not least, February 17th, Toby Matt Hits Deep Tour 2024. So that at Accessor Showwear Center, please, if you had a chance to go to an event, it's a fun place, and I encourage you to go do it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Vienna Boys Choir, that's going to be 2 weeks from tonight on the 17th. Kent Ridge High School is part of our Spotlight series, which is through the Arts Department. And this is a fabulous choir. I mean, they have sung on every continent. They have performed in over 100 countries. They were formed back in the 1400s. We're in 2300 now, 1400. They've been around a while. So this is your chance to see them. Very good prices, so inexpensive, great entertainment, and a venue that's easy to get to. We also have some other great programming going on in the Spotlight series, so it's your chance to take a look at the website, kenarts.com, to get your ticket, or go to www.kentwa.gov/arts to be able to see what the other acts are. Country music, classical music, comedies, all sorts of good stuff. And then we have our fall recycle event coming up on the 14th. That's going to be at Hogan Park. So it's a great chance. No TVs or monitors, but you can take your old DVRs and Blu-ray players and paint and all sorts of stuff back that's been hanging around your house. And then just an early warning, November 6th is the fall cleanup, which means you do spring cleaning, now you can do that fall cleaning. You get to put 10 bags out for trash pickup. So all of those extra things, good chance to be able to get rid of those. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This Saturday at Van Doren's Landing Park, there is a volunteer conservation event, and you can sign up for that online. There's also another one on October 14th. You can also sign up for that one online.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have FEMA's emergency alert going tomorrow, and that's at 11:20 a.m. PST. And the reason I want to highlight is because we just did the proclamation on domestic violence, and I wanted to remind the community, if you are a survivor or a victim and you have a phone that you are possibly hiding from your partner, it would be a good time to turn it off because alarms will go off and they will know you have a phone. So just as a safety precaution for yourself, it might be a good thing to do because those alerts will go around 11:20 a.m. is what I've learned. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Important reminder. All right. With that, we will now go into the economic and community development portion of our agenda. So the first thing we have is, so Bill Ellis will be joining us. We've got recognition of teachers trained with council funding, so the UW Space Program. Council, you heard some presentations on this early on, and now we get to recognize the participants in the program.
So I'm joined here by a group of folks, starting off with Christy Morganson, Director of Astronautics and Aeronautics at the University of Washington, Tyann Chang, who's you also heard a presentation for when you awarded the funding for this from Green River College, Dean of Continuing Education. And we're joined also from the Kent School District, Randy and Kate, and several teachers. So actually, Tyann and Christy, maybe just say a few words about the program. Then I thought we would acknowledge the certifications that they teachers have read.
Yeah, thank you for supporting us and when we first do the presentations about the ideas and have your support. And now we bring you back and we love to present you that there are 4 teachers completed the training. So there are Andrea Peterson and Niraj Aragotori, and then there are another teacher who are not present today because they have families that they need to. That's Sanyatani Matrat and then Laura Lyons. And so we're here to present them the completion certification. They also receive 7 credits for 70 hours of clock hours and then 7 credits for continuing education credits. And so we're very honored to be able to have our UW partners with us and also our Vice President of Instruction from Green River and Kent District and the wonderful instructors. I want to invite you to get to know her. Chelsea Walsh was our instructors that able to support the teachers.
Sure. I'll just say a couple of words. So it's been a pleasure to have this program running. It's something that is very meaningful to me in particular. So at the University of Washington, we are a publicly funded university, and it is very important for us to be able to reach all of our community members. In particular, with the huge gap in the STEM workforce right now, we need to get everybody trained that we can, which means training people who haven't been showing up at our 4-year universities. And in order to do that, we need to reach them where they are. So I think this has been a great opportunity, and we have another year of the program going, and then we'll be looking for additional external funding to support it beyond that. So thank you so much for the funding.
Do you have a picture? All right. I think, Council, this is through funding that you made available, so I think everybody should stand up back here.
Thank you. Okay, best earrings ever.
Here we go.
So we have the certification.
Oh, those are cool. I just noticed that.
That's amazing.
Okay, thanks.
Is it close enough?
Yeah, that's good.
I'd be really awkward with my mask on.
Everybody scooped in just a smidge.
Maybe I'll just take it off real quickly.
Wonderful. Okay, council here in 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. One more. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Thank you guys. Thank you.
I did not breathe.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Share with the report and the teachers have things that they would like to share with you. And we'll find other times to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's an amazing example of what happens. Yeah. Program's a great example of what happens when you develop strategic partnerships. So the partnerships between University of Washington, Green River, the Kent School District, and the City of Kent. We can do great things together. And again, I think this is a wonderful example of that. So congratulations to everybody that completed the program. Thank you to all of the support from our schools, and we're really excited for what this means for our students.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. And this will be a good segue into what I want to talk about this evening. And just to echo what you already said, Mayor, great opportunity to show that when we bring the university, our local institutions, the Green River College, or Kent School District together, we could start to build some awareness of the careers and the career opportunities available locally. This is obviously good timing because I've alluded to this in past presentations, but we worked with several cities in King County, including King County itself, on the first Air and Space 2030 strategy, an aerospace strategy. One of the key recommendations were, how do you work to engage students at a younger age? How do we get more teachers exposed? So we're already implementing this plan, I think, is what you just heard and saw. And so we're, I think, leading the charge in sort of that multi-city effort. We're interested in implementing more steps. Some of the key takeaways from a lot of the research that informed this report, and it was an extensive study. It was funded by King County's American Recovery Act funding. It was a $300,000 report that took the better part of a year and a half to complete, with qualitative information, lots of interviews, lots of review, and as well as specialized data sets and research from PricewaterhouseCoopers Guidehouse Group. But there has been some relative shrink in King County of the aerospace industry as compared to the economy as a whole. It's still growing, and it's definitely growing a lot in Kent Valley. But if you look at the county as a whole, the presence of aerospace seems smaller than it did in the past, mostly because of two factors. One, all of the other industries have grown a lot, even more. And there's been some congestion, some high costs in our region, especially around real estate for aerospace demand. And there's also been a lot of congestion when it comes to finding attention span, finding the energies and directing people to see the high wage careers that are also being created in aerospace. And so that's something that we heard from our employers as a finding. Very important for Kent, though, to continue to recognize, even as we look through these headlines and we parse through the 200 pages of this report, it remains the highest paying sector for wages in Kent, and it contributes the most taxes compared to other industries to Kent. So this just illustrates a little bit. I'm not going to go through all the detail on every slide. Guidehouse was a wonderful firm with lots of information and perhaps not the best in formatting. We knew that going in. So there's a lot of detail on the slides here. But main point is the GDP, or gross domestic product, of King County is $331 billion. Big portion of that, information technology. Where would you attribute that to? You've heard of Amazon, you've heard of Microsoft, you've heard of some of these companies. And this is, where are those companies located? Where are those corporate headquarters? This, on the right, you see the incomes, area median incomes by community within our region, sort of a heat map. Lighter color means lower incomes. Darker green, higher incomes. They're concentrated closer to where those industries are concentrated. This has impacts on both our wages, it has impacts on our budgets as cities, and it has impacts on our ability to spend per household. And so this is a table that shows that. However, and there's not many charts that would show this for revenue generated. Aerospace is the biggest bubble on this chart and the map on the left in South King County. So of the contributions of the aerospace industry to King County, which are considerable in the $16 billion range, the lion's share of that is generated in South King County. So it is an important industry within our county and specifically to Kent economically. In Kent, if you look at the direct impact that Kent aerospace firms offer to gross domestic product, it's about $4 billion a year. There's over 8,000 aerospace jobs in Kent. This generates indirect impacts. People spend, who have jobs in aerospace, they spend on other things that creates more economic impact. That's another $519 million in Kent. And then there's another indirect jobs generated from those aerospace jobs in Kent, another 3,407. And then all of that spending has other induced impacts down the line in areas like, as you can see in the chart, real estate, land. So all of this passes through the economy and creates other impacts on jobs in Kent and revenue in Kent. Also, the manufacturing uses in Kent, just on a very local basis. I'm trying to just capture here for you the large regional impact, and then in our area, very locally. And we did some of this during the Rally of the Valley sub-area planning process too. Manufacturing users in Kent generate almost 2/3 as much sales tax revenue as all the city's operations, but also 3 times as much as Kent's eatery and hospitality combined. So I don't think that's very intuitive for people to realize, because you spend a lot of your money out shopping and you see the sales tax when you swipe your card. Okay. Manufacturing is generating more sales and use tax for the city of Kent than all of those eateries sales tax is generating for the city of Kent. There's use of all the equipment they purchase. There's the services they provide. When other companies come to those aerospace firms and are doing things for that company from out of town or out of state related to their operations or their production, that generates sales tax. Another way of thinking about this, just to give a sense of the magnitude, if you understood that we are producing this much to our GDP from aerospace companies located in Kent, if we captured 100% of all of that sales tax that would come off of all of that gross domestic product being generated by those firms, that's about $47 million a year. Obviously, we don't get all that.
It would help our general fund significantly.
That would be the point to make, Mayor. And so even if Kent captured only 13%, which is the same percentage of Kent workers known to be living also in Kent, that's still an estimated $6 million in sales tax. It's very hard to tease apart, obviously. We don't quite do this yet, where we track everyone's personal expenditure by job, and we know exactly who's spending what where and where they all live, right? And I see Pat making a face. Obviously, no, that's not done. No conspiracy theory. But like the main point is, if you tease through the data, you can see the magnitude of the impact. So also, I would like to say that, just proving out that aerospace stands tall in terms of its impact locally on a B&O basis. And I know this is from 2018, and we've collected a lot more B&O in the last several years than we did prior to the last. This is the last time we were able to tease it out of the data. If you look at the manufacturing number, it's per job, it's bigger. It's like 20% bigger. And so we have, and then if you look at the map on the right, it's just clear to say that we are a manufacturing contributor to the region. If you see the dark color there, it's where the manufacturing jobs are. They're here. Okay, so we understand now that it has an impact on our tax base in Kent. Also, impact on wages. So if you look at the income distribution in King County as a whole over time, what we've been seeing more and more high income jobs at the highest level, especially in that information and technology bubble. That's stacked really, really high. And then you see hospitality on the far left, sort of low, below. And those yellow lines, that's kind of U.S. American average. So we pay a lot of high incomes in our area. And that high income job does relate to a higher cost of living in our region. Manufacturing jobs, they're right there in the middle of that chart. So if you're interested, we hear a lot about missing middle. There's a missing middle sometimes when it comes to incomes. There's a missing middle when it comes to jobs. And those jobs are in manufacturing, and those manufacturing jobs are in Kent. So that's, I think, an important point for us to understand. But it's not just that, because the aerospace sector employs a lot of different occupations that pay at a lot of different wages. Aerospace jobs skew mid to higher range in incomes, as you can see on this chart. It starts to stack. This is just aerospace sector employment. There's fewer below living wage jobs in aerospace than other industries, and there's more medium and high wage jobs in aerospace compared to other industries, and that's increasing. So don't ask you to read this very tight, small text bubble there. It says BWCEM. That's just the new satellite industry subsector. So there's a lot of new satellite manufacturing going on in our region. There's a lot of new types of subsectors coming up in aerospace that didn't exist before, and they're paying higher wages. So the existing manufacturing jobs we've had, that we've always had, that are middle-class jobs, they're getting more technically difficult. There's a constant need to upskill. So there's a constant need to invest in education. And also the more aerospace jobs of the future, they're going to take even more of the types of skills and education that we saw the university trying to foster an interest in with young people working with teachers today. So the aerospace sector is highly dependent on this highly educated workforce. As I just said, its skilling up pressures exist across the board. The fastest growing subsectors like satellites, they're very intensive in the types of STEM skills they need. And the presence of lower and mid-wage work, they create a competition at the higher end for skills. And all of this right now is this little lower call-out box in the lower left. In-migration is an enabler of the aerospace sector. We are, on the face of the earth, there's 3 major cluster areas for aerospace. There's Montreal, there's Toulouse, France, and there's South King County. So we're one of the biggest regions in the world for this concentration, for this industrial cluster. In the world, there's not that many aerospace firms, types of businesses, the types of occupations, the diversity. It's a standout globally. We're importing talent for the aerospace sector's next sector. we're not producing that talent locally. And I think that just underscores the need to orient some of our investments in education. So we're working with multimedia, we're working with those other cities, we're working with King County, we're working with Renton, Auburn, Redmond, Tukwila, and did I say Auburn and Renton already? So we're working with our Kent Valley partners. And we're working to create the communication forums, and we're supporting King County and sort of briefing out to policymakers, but also to education institutions. We're doing a series of briefings, a roadshow. We've been telling the press about the findings of the report, and that's one thing we're doing right now. Here's one of the headlines. Don't love the headline because it's a little bit looking at last 10 years, and that's part of looking at a study. You look at the last 10 years. The study is competition for industrial space threatens King County's $19 billion aerospace cluster. So we handed the report off to some reporters. That's the thing they took from it. And that's something that should feel very familiar to this council because it's something I've been talking about to council for a long time, which is that there is competition for manufacturers to get into the building, especially when they need to expand. And one thing I think we've all learned over time is that site readiness is not business readiness. Business readiness is not site. When the business wants to be ready to move, it's when they decide that they're ready to move. It's not at the leisure of when the properties want to be available. And we've had a very low vacancy rate for a long time. With interest rates climbing, I'll get more into this, that's starting to change a little bit, but not, it's still considered a constrained market. When you're at 2%, it's insane, bonkers vacancy level. If you're at 5%, it's still very constrained. If you're at 6%, it's kind of a relief that you can actually have a conversation of finding a property on a reasonable timeline. But we're still in that sort of 6% range right now. Anyway, one of the things that the report did find, besides the competition for real estate that came up again and again when they interviewed aerospace companies, that they were having a hard time getting into properties in time, is that sites aren't always ready. So we've been hearing a lot about this even recently. I think even earlier this afternoon on workshop, we were hearing about our decision making about hybrid vehicles versus gas vehicles versus electric vehicles. A lot of people are having that conversation, not just cities, lots of businesses are having that conversation right now, all at once. So we're starting to see wobbling. Can electric power keep pace? Do entrepreneurs have access to the testing facilities, or do they have to go to other states to have access to the infrastructure? So some of the things that we were finding in the study is that the timelines for advanced manufacturers, the cost pressures that have been put on them for small and medium size, there hasn't been a commensurate public investment. There hasn't been as much public investment keeping up with where the industry needs to go next, which I think is a good segue to giving an update on the Naden property. So site readiness is an issue that I think we've experienced most recently with the Naden property, where we were talking to several folks who had submitted LOIs, and we have not been able to meet their timelines for when they needed or were ready to expand. So we have been working with Avenue 55. We sought to negotiate a proposal. We took their proposal, rather. We negotiated with them in good faith, and I think at this point, we're finding a difficult path forward given the rising interest rates and the cost to construct relative to rents. It's harming our objectives also around pricing. We tried to explore some other ways earlier in the year in terms especially around build-to-suit and trying to find additional financing and finding that difficult. And I think that's a good segue, again, to sort of the industrial development updates that I was starting to allude to. Projects that were not already with financing for their entitlements, projects not already financing for their construction, began drying up in the first quarter of this year. So if you didn't already have your financing in place to go through all of the site design, all of the entitlement process, you pulled that project. That was right around the time you might have remembered the headlines about the Silicon Valley Bank implosion. That impacted a lot of commercial lending. It basically dried up. So even though our rents are still much elevated from years past, there's not the risk tolerance right now with that very uncertain, uneven supply chain problem and interest rate issues that have been going on. Our absorption has been very healthy. The existing building stock that was either most recently completed in Kent or most recently renovated over the last 3 years since we passed our new sub-area code, or Rally the Valley codes, that's about 3 million square feet. Nearly 1.7 million square feet of that is leased to an aerospace or advanced manufacturing firm, or more than half the leases. I don't know if you recall this fact from way back when we were talking about what percentage of our leases were to manufacturers or other transportation uses. It was like 9-to-1 transportation warehouse uses, about 8% manufacturing uses. So the fact that the next 3 million square feet are 50% aerospace and manufacturing, I think is a good story. I think it shows that we are a good place for manufacturing, people want to invest here as for manufacturing, they haven't always found the sites ready for them, except for the ones that were already further along and having the infrastructure ready. So I don't have a great segue from that part of the discussion between the next part I needed to share with you on sort of the small business front and other things that we have been doing in the last 6-7 months with the ARPA funding that Council has provided. So one is a partnership with the Community Development Financial Institution, Business Impact Northwest. For the next 3 years, thanks to Council support for this CDFI, who provides also technical assistance. There will be specialized programs. There will be acceleration programs, finance coaching, community network, flexible format. We're just putting out the press release this week, so this Council's getting advance notice today. But we're going to be working closely with them to make introductions to our community partners, community-based organizations, others who are in the know of people who are thinking of starting a business or already own a business and might need help. There are lots of different buckets of help. There's business planning help, resource navigation, loan readiness help. We are also sponsoring market readiness programs. So for those who want to set up at farmers markets, those who want to be vendors at pop-up markets, we're even subsidizing the ability to have tents or have signs at those events, business trainings that come with that, business programs, drop-in hours at the library, at the Kent Chamber of Commerce, Panther Lake Library, not just the downtown library, just drop-on hours all throughout the years. And then we will also have their membership program. We're also reducing or cost sharing and tax and bookkeeping coaching, content marketing, strategy coaching, helping people with their websites. So we have a lot of different services through Business Impact Northwest, and we're increasing their availability in our community thanks to Council support at this new historic level of technical assistance funding that we have for the next couple of years. Also, you may recall we worked with another CDFI, NDC. They've renamed themselves. So that's the purpose of this slide, just to remember that we were working with this group once, and now they're another group, and we still have another project with them. It's going to be called Grow America, and I'm going to be the last one to get that right. I'm going to keep calling them NDC for a long time. So, yeah, Grow America. Okay. So we're working with them on commercial grant affordability grants. I've talked about it a lot. I'm now able to talk to you all about having an opening date. So I just want to explain again what the program is. We're going to fund pre-development costs. It's kind of related to that site readiness conversation I was just having with you. There's a barrier very often for businesses when they're ready to move to actually then, when they start getting on that learning curve, seeing how much is involved with engineering, how much permit readiness, how much architectural services, all the things you didn't know that you needed to know, you know when you didn't know you needed it. That's a big hill to climb. And so we're looking at significantly sized awards, I think is an important thing to state here. Grants of up to $500,000. Fewer number of awards, but larger amounts. And to refresh everyone's memory, we've allotted $1.5 million, $600,000 specifically earmarked for early education and childcare business brick and mortar operations. They can be for pre-development costs, soft costs for real estate projects, the design work, feasibility, environmental reviews, all those non-construction costs related to tenant improvements that are often a barrier. Something I've talked about in the past, especially with some of the Sound Transit projects coming online, or being selected rather, not coming online, but being selected by Sound Transit at our TODA station. It's very difficult sometimes with the types of funding that is available for affordable housing projects. It's also difficult for market rate, but it's for affordable housing projects in particular, sometimes having a private market rate ground floor user doesn't pair very well with the types of funding that those developers have to work with. And so having some flexible funding helps encourage them to have some active uses, especially near a transit station. I think that's a well-timed set of grant funding for those types of development projects, but not exclusively to them. So there's a lot of properties that might be vacant in and around our area that, but for the early investment and pre-development costs, the early engineering designs that are risk prohibitive. It's a little risky, but I think this could help jumpstart it, and I think that is a good use of funding because I think a lot of these sites we need to start to understand what are the engineering challenges exactly and start to put a cost around that, and a lot of that has to come from it's a market failure that isn't going to be addressed otherwise, put it to you that way. And that's why the funding eligibility from the federal resources talks about vacant and abandoned properties as a very eligible use to contribute to the health of those neighborhoods. So we will be prioritizing, and I've been working with Grow America for the last year on sort of working on the scoring eligibility criteria, where to target in the community, so near transit centers, certain areas that are qualified census tract is more distressed. where businesses could apply. And for anyone who has questions on this going forward, since I think the city's role at this point is coming very near an end, not completely at an end, but at a marketing and sort of outreach moment, I will start directing people to this email, which will put you in touch with a person at Grow America, formerly NDC, to answer those questions. And they will be the scorer, they will be the selector. We will get to know who they select, but we will not be selecting. We will not be choosing the winners and losers of this grant. I should add here, applicants must have a strong Kent connection. They must either have a physical address in Kent already, site control within city limits. If they don't, because think of the TOD sites that I was just talking about, and let's say you're a business from across the street and you're in SeaTac right now and you wanted to be in the Kent location, but you're not quite penciling, but we do care about that site being active, you need to be having control of that Kent location. And if you're a nonprofit like an early education provider, you need to explain how this will result in you serving more Kent folks. So the money is going to be purposed specifically for Kent. The opening will be in October 2023, October 23rd rather. It'll open for 2 weeks as a pre-screen invitation process. Then we'll have the full application first day of November, run through November, closes December 4th. NDC will then make awards in early 2024. They haven't promised a date yet. Kind of depends on how many applications they get, how much back and forth, their evaluation of those. But they must spend all funds by 2026. And so if there's any questions about this, I just want to emphasize this will not be the only way in place that people will learn about this grant opportunity. We will be promoting it out in multiple different channels like we do other programs. I'm just sharing with council today we have an opening date today. With that, I yield to questions.
All right. Council, questions for Bill? There's a lot of good things going on. Bill talked about it a little bit. We have had several examples in the last little bit where when businesses are ready, they are ready, despite whether the infrastructure exists or land, property, buildings exist. And so it is incumbent on us to make sure that we are doing everything we can to create the environment where they have that opportunity. The last thing we want to have happen is businesses going someplace else because they can't get the things that they need. So really grateful for the work that Bill is doing on that front, and encouraging all of the infrastructure providers to do the right thing and help us out. So thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right, we will move into reports. All of your council members serve on committees outside of just these council meetings that occur on the first and third Tuesday of each month. So they are on regional boards and committees, making sure that the voice of Kent is being represented, both as policy is being created for the region, but also as funding is distributed. And there's that analogy of if you're not at the table, you're what's for dinner. I am really grateful for our council members making sure that we're part of that table setting and not the latter. So a lot of work being done to make sure Kent is represented. I have a couple of very quick reports this evening, and then I will turn it over. So Flood Control District, I am the chair of the Flood Control Advisory Board. So it's a group of cities around King County that meet each year to present an advisory letter to the Flood Control District regarding projects as well as funding. The primary, and so I presented the findings of the advisory board to the Flood Control District Board of Supervisors last week. The primary outcome of the advisory board was really that we need to keep looking at funding. So as you can imagine, those flood control projects are extremely expensive, and making sure that we've got enough funding to continue building out those projects that are so important to communities. And the other thing was on project prioritization, making sure that the Flood Control District stays true to their mission. As with any organization, there can tend to be a little bit of creep in that scope, and so the recommendation of the advisory board was really to make sure that the Flood Control District, as they build out their budget and their work plan, that they're staying true to that protection of community assets and flooding on the major rivers in King County. Want to say thank you to the Salt Air Hills neighborhood over on West Hill. Had a great meeting with their neighborhood council last week, discussing the things that were top of mind for them, priority, all the things that we continue to hear. Public safety continues to be a top concern. Also, I sit on the Puget Sound Regional Council, both Operations Committee and Executive Board. We met last week. The primary presentations at Exec Board were the Regional Safety Plan. I've talked about that a little bit here. City of Kent is a recipient of some dollars for our road safety plan, and at the same time, the region is building out a plan. So really, it's more of a roadmap and best practices kind of plan that will be used as a regional tool. Also had a presentation from the Washington State Ferry System. In the news a lot, reliability is a challenge, equipment is a challenge, bringing on some electric ferries. But the thing that stood out the most is really their workforce challenges. The requirements to captain or skipper, I'm not exactly sure what you call it when you drive a ferry, pretty extensive, and it takes a lot of actual hours of sort of in the seat time to be certified to be a captain. What is happening is there's not enough people coming through that pipeline. So we're seeing a lot of that reliability numbers being because of workforce. If somebody calls in sick, there's not somebody else to captain those ferries. So a lot of great programs. If you know anybody that's interested in a new career or a career path, they are paying for you to go to school. So highly recommend checking it out. It's a great way to get an education and get a career path that has very positive career advancements rolled into it. So Washington State Ferries. Last thing I want to say is go Birds. We raised the Thunderbirds flag out here in the plaza on Friday. They did have a rough start at the game on Saturday, but it is the first home game of the season. I'm positive they're going to turn things around. It's a pretty amazing team. Good news is we got to bring that trophy back out for one more visit to the ice and hang some new banners over there at Acesso Shower Center. So want to encourage the team. They've got this. We're going to be just fine, and it's going to be a great season, and make sure to go check out a T-Birds game if you get a chance. With that, I'm going to look to my right to Pat Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'm just going to defer to the CAO report that's in the council packet. Thank you.
Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our committee as a whole was pretty quiet. I think one of the big things we talked about the resolution around the opioid. I think we can talk about that later on in our meeting tonight. Other than that, it was pretty quiet. And then for our workshop, the budget, right? So we got a good presentation from Paula, our finance director, and there was numerous questions that was asked from the council that they was able to go through. So the plan is 2 more weeks is to bring that back, and any more question we have, we'll get that answer, and then we'll move forward with next step of adopting the budget. I myself, I sit on the as the chair of the PIC Sound City Association. We took the month of August off, and then the month of September we had a light agenda. So we have our next meeting coming up a week from Wednesday. So I got 2 more months as the chair of that committee. So I'm looking forward to finish up my commitment there. Other than that, that's all I have. I'm going to turn to my left to Councilmember Michaud, and we'll go down the dais here.
Thank you, Council President. On Saturday, Public Works and the Police Department hosted Team Up to Clean Up. Volunteer groups went out and cleaned up graffiti and litter, and I think I saw Pat out there helping to clean up. So thank you to all the volunteers who were there on Saturday. Earlier today at our Committee of the Whole, I'm the subject chairperson for Parks and Human Services. We had 3 items. We talked about access control and security cameras for the shops downtown Kent, or down in the valley in Kent, and then the fire alarm upgrades for Centennial, and then a contract agreement or consultant agreement for the Garrison Creek Park for the design of that. I also serve on the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice Committee, and this past meeting we heard from Burien and Shoreline about their co-responder programs and how that's working for them. And then we also got a briefing from a student at UW talking about she assessed the youth behavioral health workforce in King County, and I think we all know that it's very difficult to hire people in mental health spots. And then my last thing is that I serve on this new group called, So I serve on Washington's Community Forestry Council as a representative for the Association of Washington Cities. And there's a new offshoot of that. It's Washington's Tree Equity Collaborative. We met for our first time last week, and we discussed our goals and roles for the Tree Equity Pledge for municipalities and organizations. And we also talked about There is this tree equity score map that you can all look at online. You just look up tree equity score map in Google, and yeah. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. Councilmember Core?
Thank you, Council President. I serve on King County Growth Management Planning Council, and we had our meeting last week. We voted on urban growth area policies and 4-to-1 program. Sound Cities caucus was not for the whole the amendments that Councilmember King County Executive Constantine was the ones he proposed, but it still got voted in and we moved through. But our IJT, the interjurisdictional teams of staff, they had really good recommendations. So we did take those amendments into the 4-to-1 program that we passed. We also had a presentation from Puget Sound Regional Council for their certification of 2021 countywide planning policies, and they were voted by the Puget Sound Regional Council, approved because they align with their Vision 2050 plan. And we also had a presentation on our school sightings in urban growth areas, the meetings that Growth Management Planning Council staff is having with our different school districts. So 6 of the school districts have opted to not have those meetings, and we'll have more updates on that at our next meeting. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Core. Councilmember Larmer?
Thank you, Council President. I serve on the King County Aging and Disabilities Advisory Council, and we will be meeting this coming.
Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. I am the subject matter chair for Economic and Community Development, but we did not have anything on the agenda today. I am also on the Regional Transit Committee, and I missed the meeting this last month, but last week I went to the 50th birthday celebration for King County Metro. So it was pretty exciting. It was a time to celebrate 50 years of public transportation. They had a Metro band that was comprised of drivers throughout Metro. We heard from a couple drivers of the year. They had some people who use public transit, and it was just a really great time to come together and celebrate all of the good things that they've done to move public transportation throughout our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. Councilmember Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I serve as the chairman of the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority, and we didn't really have very much at all to talk about, so I have no report except to say that our next meeting is October 19th, 5:30, Station 78.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. Last but not least, Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you very much, Council President. Arts Commission will meet next week, so I will not have a report on that tonight, but get a chance to walk through Centennial and look at the art there in the gallery. We have Public Works tonight at our meeting. We had a discussion, or rather a presentation or reminder, that the 14th and the 15th is the weekend that the speed limit will change. It will go down to 40 miles per hour on Pacific Highway, and that will be border to border. So from 272nd down to 516 Kent Des Moines Road. So that is going to slow. You will see the big signs out at the borders, but do take note and slow down. We also, with Team Up to Clean Up, we were on West Hill, and I just want to say that I was happy. We had some new members that aren't usually out with us, so it was good having new community members come out. And just a reminder that everybody can take advantage of helping clean up our city and beautify it with Team Up to Clean Up. Happens a couple of times a year. Plus, there's also a program that you can adopt a street and always, anytime you wish, go out and pick up trash. And you can just do it on your own. King Conservation District had a special tour. I've mentioned tours and all for the public. And this was one that they did for the advisory committee, taking advisory committee members out to some of the projects. So we could see firsthand what what goes on and hear from the people who are actually benefiting from the residents of the county as to what impacts it has had on them, the consultation or funding, whatever they receive from KCD, how that's impacting their property, their lives in their area. And then Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Committee. We are still reading and will be for a while reading social injustice and mental health. But we had a briefing on the Crisis Care Center levy. So people will be seeing that, and good information came out. And that's the one where we're looking for the 4 centers that will serve adults and then the one that will serve youth. Mental health counseling is what is going to be available. That is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Frencher, and also thanks for reminding about the speed limit. I stole your thunder away earlier today, so I appreciate that. Madam Mayor, that ends our report.
Thank you, Council President. All right, we will move on in the agenda. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing. It is our first public hearing on the 2024 through 2029 Capital Improvement Program. So the way a public hearing works is staff will give a presentation, and then I will invite the public to provide testimony or written statements or other evidence to the council. Public input must relate to this particular public hearing. If you're here for general public comment, there's an opportunity later in the meeting. And you can sign up there with our clerk at this front table. At this point, we will go ahead and open the public hearing on the 2024 through 2029 Capital Improvement Program. It is now open, and I will ask Paula Painter to come and make the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Ralph, Council President Boyce, members of City Council. I'm here for the first public hearing on the 2024-2029 Capital Improvement Plan. This Capital Improvement Plan is a required component of the Growth Management Act, which was passed by the legislature in 1990. To meet the requirement, the city puts together a 6-year capital improvement plan. The plan outlines projects along with recommended financing methods to meet public facility needs that are required to maintain the established level of services. The CIP is adopted by ordinance and updates the city's comprehensive plan. The first year of the 6-year plan is included in the 2024 mid-biennium budget adjustment. You can view that 6-year plan beginning on page 84 of the mayor's proposed mid-biennium budget adjustment book, which is found online. Of the $225 million 6-year capital improvement plan, $56 million of that is in the 2024 mid-biennium budget. And at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Paula? All right. Kim, do we have any speakers signed up?
We do not.
All right, if we've got no speakers, then a motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Paula. All right, that brings us down to public comment. Public comment period is an opportunity to speak to the council and the mayor on issues that relate to the City of Kent or agenda items that the council will consider. This is not an open public forum, and comments that do not relate to the business of the City of Kent are not permitted. Additionally, the state of Washington strictly prohibits people from using this public comment opportunity for campaign purposes, including the support or opposition of a ballot measure or any candidate seeking public office. Speakers may not give political campaign speeches, but must instead speak concerning a matter of the city council's on the city's council agenda or matters concerning the general business of the City of Kent. Further, in providing public comment, speakers must address the mayor and the council as a whole, and remarks intended to target an individual on the dais are not permitted. Finally, please note that this public comment opportunity is for you to provide information to the mayor and city council that you would like for us to consider, but we will not be able to answer questions during the meeting itself. Kim will call of our speakers. We do have a 3-minute time limit. There will be a timer on the screen, and when you come up, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Kim, do we have any speakers?
We have one person signed up to speak. Daryl Jones wants to talk about the homeless along the Green River.
Daryl Jones from Kent, and good evening to the council. Tonight I want to appear before you to bring the concerns of the residents living near the Green River Trail to your attention. Now, I spoke to them last week and they said some of these concerns were brought to the attention of the council and or mayor, and their emails were ignored. In listening to their concerns, because I've got a list here, I was told of fires, some of which occurred multiple times on the same day. I was told of shootings happening in the apartment complex parking lot, but it was not the residents shooting at each other. It was the homeless individuals in that homeless village, I'll call it, right up off of 94th Place South. See, apparently there was a stolen U-Haul truck that was being chased along the trail. Apparently they got out and then the U-Haul truck was set on fire intentionally. And then there was one resident who said the school bus turns around very near where 94th Place South branches off to Green River Road, and there's a student that actually stays beyond there. And so apparently his family has to take him past the drug encampment to a local pickup site for the school bus. And then I was informed by another resident that when the Kent police were called about a crime that occurred and the perpetrator returned to the homeless village, the responding police, or Kent police officers that is, informed the victim that they would have to call the sheriff because they're now on King County property. And I don't understand how that part makes any sense because the crime actually occurred in Kent. And then finally, I'm going to share something with you that one of those residents said to me. And she said, "You live where you can afford to live." And that same is going to stick with me because I've never even given it a thought, because I've always been able to afford to live where I wanted to live. But she had a point. This resident lived in an area that was nice and quiet until this homeless hamlet popped up and ruined their neighborhood. And then, let's see here. Oh, and basically the other thing was, from their perspective, nothing of substance has been done by the city of Kent to pressure King County into taking action to remove them, because this problem has been out there for more than 2 years now. This is back, property owner in 2022, emailed me and asked me to see if I could help assist with that problem. So it's been there for more than 2 years, and yet it's still there. Nothing's been done. The way I look at it, the amount of money a person makes should not determine the amount of protection that they receive from the police or the amount of attention that they're given by elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Kim, do we have any other speakers?
We do not.
Right. Okay, we will move on in our agenda consent calendar. Consent calendar is a compilation of items that council has had an opportunity to receive presentations on, ask questions, have discussion, and it is moved out of committee of the whole without any controversy. This evening we have items A through L. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Brings us down to the added item on our agenda, item 9A, the resolution, the opioid resolution. Tammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is going to be a bit of a repeat, just a little bit of it for you for council, since we just discussed this at Committee of the Whole this evening. But the resolution before the council for consideration would provide for the discussion of use of opioid funds to occur as part of our budget process. So under the settlement agreements that the city entered into for part of those class action lawsuits that we are party to, provided that we would have an opportunity for the community to provide input on priorities for use of those funds. Staff has recommended that discussion occur as part of the budget process. It seems to make the most sense when you're figuring out how you want to spend the city's funds and what are priorities for you, to have that conversation as part of this budget time. So if you were to adopt the resolution that's before you, we would then discuss how to use opioid funds as part of the standard budget process. That would happen during the biennium process, so the first year of that 2-year period, but also during that amendment process, which would be that second year of the biennium. Additionally, if you were to authorize a particular use for opioid funds, if we were to, if expenditures were to be more than what we had initially allocated for a single budget year, then we could add additional funds for that purpose without having additional community input. Just because you've already authorized that use, we just underestimated how much we would need for that year. If there was an interest in doing a new use of those funds that we hadn't discussed as part of the budget, then that would be a separate request to you that would come outside of that budget process. So there would be an exception process provided. So if that was acceptable to you, that's the process that would be established through the resolution.
Any questions for Tammy? All right, Councilmember Thomas, do you have a motion?
I do, Your Honor. I would move to adopt resolution number 2067 that establishes a process for the submission of community input on priorities for allocation strategies in the city's use of its opioid settlement funds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item number 10 is bids. We do not have any this evening. We also do not have an executive session, so that brings us to the bottom of the agenda. I want to thank everyone for hanging in there with us tonight. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we are adjourned. What goes into the landfill could be recycled, and I think that's really where we need to be focusing those energies. We also had a report out on the last year for the Best Start for Kids grants, where that funding is going.